Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to PVD Horror. Today we have a special guest, critically acclaimed writer, director, Brendan Muldowney. Brendan, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. So now, are you a big horror fan? If so, what are some of your favorite horror films?
I am a big horror fan, and I would say most of my I'm sorry, just I would say most of my previous features would be I would say would skirt around genre.
Okay.
So, they mightn't be supernatural, but they've all gone through the fantastic film festival circuit. They're either dealing with violence or, in fact, my second feature was based on a Japanese novel, which was really out there. It was dealing with sort of all sorts of stuff from suicide to necrophilia. It was quite an out there film that we tried to make sensitively. But some of my favorite horrors, you know, it's I'm going to just look at a list, but even off the top of my head, I can tell you that The Wicker Man was a big influence on me when I was younger. I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I like Psycho. I don't know whether you call it a horror or not.
Yeah.
Um, I, you know, Again, The Haunting was an influence on the film you've watched. I love Rosemary's Baby, and then I got really into then a couple of years back the French new wave, the extreme new wave. I
Yeah.
really liked Martyrs and Inside and Hot Tension or High Tension, I think, or else they call it Switchblade Romance. They change the name, the titles
Mhm.
all the time. Um, Look, I've been watching horror films all my life, even from when I was really young, watching them, just on television. And then, and I used to say to people that I could happily go into the video shop, the DVD shop, and get, a transgressive, dark, really out there horror film, or easily get Cherry Falls, which at the time, it was out. Cherry Falls was this film about it came after Scream, and it was like, so the rules of the slasher are, if you're a virgin, you'll get killed.
Mhm.
So they all have this big party to lose their virginity. I mean, it's like stupid as hell, but
Yeah.
I'm down with it. So like I like horror films. Yeah, I do like them.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, what inspired you to start writing and directing films?
Again, this is why I keep trying to open this list actually, because because someone asked me this question today, and it's like they asked me what one film that started you, and I said there's not one film. There's like, uh, sorry, you can't see that, but
Yeah.
there's 30 films, or there's more, and they're films that hit me at different times in my life, because it's never like, wanting to make films can actually stop. You can be trying to move from shorts to features and get very disillusioned after like 10
Yeah.
years not making one, and you're going, what the hell? And then you might see Irreversible, or not Irreversible, but Gaspar Noé's first film, Sol Contra Toe, or two, which is I Stand Alone, and go, wow, I want to keep making films. So, but what I would say to you is um, I was 7 when Star Wars came out, and we were in school. And the thing to do at the time, McDonald's had just hit Ireland, and the thing was, the parties as we were all going 7 was go to the movies and see Star Wars and go to McDonald's. And I went to Star Wars about 10, 15 times.
Mhm.
And you got to understand that we really hadn't seen anything in the cinema like that. And I went years later to I went to there used to be the Museum of Moving Image in London, and I went in, and they had this, you go through silent movies and all the way, and it went into the section on Dolby Sound, and what they had was, as you walked into this room with brilliant speakers, was one of those first fights where the Millennium Falcon is fighting with X fighters, or not X fighters, whatever the Death Star fighters are, and the sound of these things flying around, like, it really, I have to say, Star Wars for a 7-year-old but it didn't make me want to make films. It just made me go, what the hell is
Yeah.
this? What I will say is then Rosemary's Baby. The Wicker Man was the first time I was watching something, and I was going, there's something else going on here with films. I mean, again, Taxi Driver, I have to say, had a big influence on me, and I started to really notice. I mean, even before I studied film, when I studied film, they really got us to study Hitchcock in my very first film school, and in Rear Window specifically, actually. And I did appreciate all of Hitchcock, and I appreciated moving the camera and stuff. But Taxi Driver, I think, was the first time I noticed, like, there's a scene where Travis Bickle is in a cafe and he pops an Alka-Seltzer or something into a glass of water, and the camera just goes down into this glass of water and into Travis's face, and it's the sound, and you start to actually, I just felt that film did a brilliant job of getting me into the mind of someone, and I could appreciate the filmmaking as much as well. Look, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, again, for the same reason, there's filmmaking in that. Like, someone picks up a tooth at one stage and it's just crash zooms into these close-up teeth. Or there's a scene where they walk, one of the girls walks into a room with the chickens, and it just spends 5 minutes just going around with the sound. And of course, like, who can forget the very first kill, I think it is, with the bashing on the head and the legs going. But it's, what I remember is the door slamming and this sound going, boom, like, and you go, oh my God. So, I mean, what else? Look, when I was in college, I mean, I've got so many things here, like from Kubrick, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. These are all the standards, but a short film about killing made a big impression on me, and The Battle of Algiers as well. And then over the years, as I've been making different films, like Harold and Maude, I really watched a lot for Love Eternal. I watched a lot of the Bergman Persona, Through It Last Darkly, and Hour of the Wolf for another film that never got made. The Vanishing, the original Vanishing, I found really good. And I love a lot of English films. Like, I love Dead Man's Shoes and This Is England as well. The Coen brothers. More recent, and I see here Tarkovsky, and right beside Tarkovsky is Martyrs. Chopper, an Australian film I love, and more recently I love Arrival. I really like Arrival, and I like it because it reminds me of a graphic novel I love, Watchmen. And I absolutely love that sequence where Dr. Manhattan, I think he goes to Mars, I can't remember, but he starts to experience time, or he explains how he experiences all time as one. Yeah. And in a way, I found that very profound when I didn't expect it when I was reading Watchmen. And I sort of felt that Arrival was playing with the same ideas, you know. Sorry, I'm waffling on. There's a million more things here, like from Cronenberg to even Kill List and stuff, and Get Carter, actually, an old, brilliant old British thriller. But look, yeah, and some of them were thrillers more so than horrors and stuff. But I can see there that they're not romantic comedies.
No.
We got some good taste. We like a lot of the same, even graphic novels. I'm a big reader, so
yeah.
I didn't expect to hear the Watchmen mentioned, but I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt. Psycho was one of the names. I love Robert Bloch, so it was really cool. Good mentions.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
You know, you have 9, award-winning shorts under your belt, so it's just like it did something. You know, those films definitely helped you out in some way, so that's good. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every year though, like, I'm looking out for the next one that's going to get the juices going again.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So we started a playlist which features some of our guests' favorite songs. Could you share 2 songs that made an impact on your life and career to add to the list?
Yeah, I'm just going to open my Spotify because I would say music. It's even harder for me to choose. You see the back there?
Yep.
That's just some of my music, right? So it's really, really hard for me to choose music. So what I'm going to do is go into my Spotify and choose what I played last, right? So that's not necessarily my favorite, but it'll be good. I can guarantee you.
The PVD horror playlist is on Spotify, and we've had some really interesting picks from writers to actors.
Well, if I go into I mean, I know in my search there, like in my, and I'm not going to give you these, but in my search, where I'm just looking stuff up, Fortet, Sufjan Stevens, Roots Manuva, the Wormholes, Lear, a lot of Irish bands in there. Cannibal Holocaust, the main theme is there. But what I was listening to literally before I got here was I was listening to some krautrock, and I was listening to I never pronounced this band properly, but they're Neu, and I think it's now or Nua. I can't pronounce it right, but they're like Can, the German band Can. And the band and the song I was listening to is let me find it there. Hallo Gallo.
Okay.
Can
Nice.
you read that?
I can see
And
it.
sorry, I'm playing it there. And the next was Stereo Lab, and it's Metronomic Underground.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're the last two. I was listening to them as I was bringing my daughter back from swimming lessons there.
Nice.
I was trying to educate her in the.
That's what it's all about, man. You know, you got to show the kids like all different types of music to keep it going, you know?
Exactly, yeah. But
Right.
I mean, look, my Spotify list goes from, you know, metal punk to ambient to classical. It's like I literally couldn't, you know, so you've just got a nice middle of the road
Yeah.
version of the taste there.
It's a hard question. I know if I was put on the spot, I'd be like, oh man, it's hard. You know what I mean? But we just try to just throw it out there to try to, you know, keep our listeners engaged and just like different music and everything. So
Sure.
we appreciate you sharing those two tracks. So back in February, Shudder made an announcement that they acquired your new film, The Cellar, which will release on streaming services on April 15th. Can you give the listeners a brief summary of the new film?
Yeah. It's about a family that moves into a new house and their daughter goes missing. And the mother starts to suspect that she didn't run away, which is what the father thinks, and she starts to suspect that something's happened to her in the house. And I suppose I can't really go much further than that, but look, all hell breaks loose. How about that?
Yeah.
The trying to come up with some questions, I was like, how far do we go without giving stuff away?
Oh, well, look, I can skirt around it quite well, like I think,
Okay.
and I can talk about it quite a lot.
Well, the whole premise was another dimension in math, and I don't know if you can give that away, but man, that was really intriguing. And I'm reading a book on physics right now, and there's you know, interdimensional travel with the math and stuff, and especially like Pacquiao, or I don't even know how to pronounce it, where they fold time in this little. Anyway, I found it super interesting. So I didn't know, are you into physics? And if not, where did you come up with the idea for that? I mean, it was pretty intense.
Well, no, I am the same way as you are, because I can tell that you like it, but it poosh is what, you know, I read it and after a while I'm going, okay, I don't get that. But I do, I love it. I've read Stephen Hawking's 2 books, and I try and understand it. And sometimes I get a little moment where my brain goes, I think I get that. But I mean, like, even, you know, where this all started years ago, my interest was even within the film Love Eternal, I skirt around with these ideas as well. And I do remember with Love Eternal, I was trying to find a hook as well to get into this, to get past the necrophilia and stuff. I was trying to get something that was more profound and somebody that was, you know, dealing with death. And I was going, well, you know, I'm not religious. So it was more like this question of the universe, how big it is and where our place is and what it is really like. I mean, I've always been fascinated with that. But I do remember one day, I mean, this is going back years, this is before even, but it follows on from this. But I remember thinking about gravity and going, you know, what is gravity? We understand, like, I mean, yeah, we understand the laws of how something falls but why? What is it? And I don't know, the best I've got from reading the books is that space is a sort of three-dimensional thing, like a blanket, say, but not like a blanket. Because so if there's like, I can understand a blanket and a ball makes an indent, which means anything around it will suck into it. So I'm trying to imagine that in a three-dimensional space, and I'm going, it's mind-boggling. So yes, I have been interested in it for years, and I suppose it's a go-to for me when I'm stuck for something, you know. But it worked out really well for this, because I actually prefer the H.P. Lovecraft idea of, quite quickly on, I decided I can't be messing with sort of Judeo-Christian things. We've just done it too much before. So I just wanted to find, so like when, you know, something in the cellar that you would call hell, I call the void. You know, so, and that's where I like the way dimensions sort of come into it, because it's not necessarily science fiction if you think of it in a H.P. Lovecraft way, where he had ancient evils in the universe that were out there older than humans. So in a way, it still stays with a horror vibe for me, and yet it's got, you know, some science fiction going on.
Awesome.
I really dug that part of the story, like especially how it interwoven through the whole thing. So kudos to you.
Cheers.
There was another thing, you know, I'm a parent, and obviously it takes place with the family and the mother, and the extent of like what you do for your children. And that hit me pretty hard from this film, which I didn't expect that. And then all of a sudden I was like, boom, here's this like parent, and it, without giving so much away, going full force for her kids.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that without giving stuff away?
Yeah, sure. You know, when I was trying to develop this, because it came from a short film of mine called The 10 Steps, and the short film is like, you know, there's very little character development or mythology in it. So I had to develop that mythology that we've just spoken about. But I also needed a character, you know, because I was really, this was plot led basically more than it was character led. I had the twist from the short film, which was the walking down the steps, and I came up with more or less the end, but I had to fill it with characters. I mean, originally I tried to extend the short film. That didn't work. This was a long time ago. Then when I started writing it, I used the short film as a prologue, and I had a new family move into the house, and I had to start all over again. And I gave them all complications and different reasons for being here, and some were very interesting, but it wasn't working either. And you know, you over here in Ireland, we get a lot of script editors and script editing sessions, and they don't let you away with it. You know, if you've got your characters are weak, they're not letting you away with it.
No.
I was coming up with new ideas, and then finally I just went, you know what? If I just continue it, and I have a parent that's looking for their child and is willing to do anything, like we'll go into a dark cellar looking for them. Number one, it's a brilliant character hook. So all of the problems that I was coming up against just disappear, because now everyone understands the motivations. But it also solved a million different other things for me, including one, which was when I was writing it with a new family, and the protagonist was, say, another 16-year-old daughter or girl. I was finding it difficult to, without spoilers here, but to, you know, you've seen the end. So I was finding it difficult to punish these sort of characters, or to send them where they do. So in a way, it was far easier than not just a grown-up, but an advertising exec who's using their advertising to sort of manipulate and use the vulnerabilities of people to sell their crap to them, you know? So, and so even though like you know, the character is sympathetic, and I think she finds her way, or she realizes, still made it easy for me to put them through the ringer, basically. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome. The other thing I wanted to touch on was your buildup of tension was spot on. And you've mentioned some great films with some tension builders, but as you're watching it, it just progresses like just a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And you could see the mastery of your timing and building suspense. And I was really curious how that relates to writing and then directing the film afterwards.
Well, you know, of all the films, my first film and this film, everything we shot ended up in the film. Nothing was cut out. So, but just for that, I mean, over the years, there's two things I've started to do in writing. One is, I think it's Walter Hill, the film director, Walter Hill, who did The Warriors, and he wrote a script for the original Alien. And I love his writing style. If I was to look it up now, I'm going to paraphrase it and get it wrong, but the first line will just go, cold, empty, still. You know, a corridor, cold, and then the next line, cold, empty, still. And it's like you're reading this sparse, you know, lines. It's so easy to read. Everything's like a beat in the action, and it's just easy to read. So I've been trying to do that for years. And this, obviously, within a film like this, it's very easy, you know, to do that. But also, and I won't say, I mean, I think it was Jason Blum once. I could be wrong on this, but I'm going to attribute the quote to him, that he was saying every 10 minutes something needs to happen. So I don't know if that's the exact quote, but what I did, one of the versions I did of this, and with other scripts I've done over the years, or more recently when I'm writing plot-based stuff, is that I've nearly been challenging myself to see. I wrote a script once where someone's daughter goes missing in a supermarket, and it just snowballs from there. And there isn't one moment where it's down, or if there is, it's just a beat so that we can go up again. And I've been trying for years to try and see, is it possible to not do slow burn, but to do the complete opposite and just plow through with, and I suppose there's action films out there that do that. With this, no, I didn't fully do that. And there is in the middle, it obviously dips, but I suppose there's an element of one of the drafts, the earlier drafts I did with this was more of a young adults version. It was all the protagonists were kids. It happened over one night. It had a monster mashup in the end. It was like all Hieronymus Bosch creatures walking around. It was a bit too expensive and the producers didn't go for it, but I loved it. And it was breakneck pace. It just started and just went like this for about 80 pages. And I think a little bit of that crept into this is really what the answer is. But look, when I'm directing, I'm not precious. I write in one way, and I'm writing for the reader more than I am as for the director, because I think I just want the reader to have a good read. But it just so happens that what I think is a good read does break it up into bite-sized little beats that then they transfer very easy into like a shot list. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, okay.
So now I'm going back to the ending that you talked about. So the last like maybe 20 to half of the film, man, it was, the cinematography was great. The camera angles and stuff, I was really interested. And plus it looked so drab and dreary, and you really like you almost feel it. You know what I mean? It's so drab and dreary and takes you down. You're like, whoa. And how was that to shoot cinematography wise?
Well, you see, there's a couple of different parts to that, but without giving anything away, you're talking about where it enters into a new sort of place. So, some of that is green screen, some of that is blue screen, some of it is in studio, some of it's in a giant studio, in a different studio, some of it's on a set, some of it's in real tunnels underneath Lockheed in Roscommon, which is these servant tunnels they were made years ago for big stately homes here in Ireland. The servant tunnels were where the food came in, but also where the servants came in because they couldn't be seen walking into. So they're these big long tunnels, and now they're sort of run down a bit. So there's like just water dripping down and stalactites. And how was it to shoot? Well, it was miserable and cold in the real tunnels. It was sort of fun shooting the big scene with all the extras because the green screen. I enjoyed that. And it was stressful shooting the blue screen stuff, which is the sort of steps sequence, because that was our last day and we ran out of time, and it was just stressful.
Even the scenes in the house, though, the cinematography there was great. Like it looked creepy,
The location was amazing. The cinematographer I've worked with since I was in film school in 99, 2000, he's done a good few of my shorts. He's done all my features. So I've worked with him for years, and I know, and he's very good. He's great. He did The Hole in the Ground as well, if you've seen.
Okay.
Seen that.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's great.
Yeah. Now, is it true the house that you filmed in was actually haunted? I know a few cast members feel that way about the location that was in Ireland.
Nah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's it.
I had to ask because that was one of the main things I had seen one of the actresses had put down. So,
well, I think she said that what we had was we were staying in cottages near it, and there was an infestation of flies.
okay.
Now, I mean, she wouldn't have put the two and two together, but I said to her, like in the original Amityville Horror, there's a big sequence with flies on a window. Yep. I think it's with a priest, yeah.
Yep.
But of course they had a few dead flies in their house. I woke up one night and they're fucking everywhere, these flies. And I had to ring the producers and go, thankfully I had bought spray because I was finding lots of dead flies. But one night it just went insane, and they had to get a pest exterminator to come in and go up into the alley. And of course, the infestation of flies. But this is November in Ireland, so there's no flies in the wintertime. Well, I think what happened was these cottages in the winter, no one uses them. They're summer cottages, they're holiday cottages. So in the winter, it's freezing cold, and there must have been sort of nests or whatever however flies are. And then they put the heat on 24 hours a day because the two actors came from LA. It's freezing cold. And I said, yeah, I want it warm as well. Like, so turn it on. So I'd say the flies, wherever they were, they thought it was summertime or something, and they came up to have a party. And then, yeah, there was a massive fly massacre in my house that night.
That's terrible, man.
I couldn't live with it. It was freaking me out.
Yeah.
I can't stand bugs. I used to live in Florida, and it was really hot there. And we lived down the swamp, and the cockroaches were like the size of your hand, and you'd come in.
Cockroaches are even worse. They run.
No bugs for me. No bugs. I'm good.
Good.
All right. So what's next after the Cellar? Do you have any plans that you can tell our listeners that's coming up soon?
You know, I'm working on something that I call a revisionist folk horror, where St. Patrick is trying to convert a Druid sect to Christianity. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. It's got mind time travel, mind bends. It's ultra violent. It's got like, yeah. Put it this way, it's like St. Patrick, like you've never seen him.
Never seen him. I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah, that sounds insane. Definitely hit us back up when that comes out, please. Sure. Absolutely. We know you're short for time, so we'll just cut it right there. But honestly, the movie's great. So definitely, it's a Shudder exclusive. Everyone who's listening, definitely check it out. It comes on the 15th, correct?
Yeah, 15th of April. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely check it out, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It was such an honor. So cool to talk to you. I'm glad you're down to earth, and we definitely had a lot of fun. So thank you.
Good. Thanks very much, guys.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
Take it easy.
Bye.